Okay, let's just jump right into it. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to completely uncover the invisible rules that dictate the world's wealth. We're talking about everything from the absolute giants of global finance, all the way down to the hidden traps waiting for you in your own monthly budget. Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you work, the math just kind of never seems to add up in your favor? Yet, at the exact same time, there are massive entities out there managing literally trillions with total perfect precision? Well, today we are decoding that exact system. Here's the roadmap for this explainer. 1. The invisible global finance system. 2. Global safety nets explained. 3. The silent EMI debt trap. 4. Why salary increments are illusions. 5. The patient investing formula. And finally, 6. Escaping the financial matrix.
All right, part 1, the invisible global finance system, the operating system of global wealth.
You know, people absolutely love to share conspiracy theories about shadow governments or, secret societies pulling the strings. But honestly, the truth is so much more technical and, well, boring. And that is exactly why it's so incredibly powerful. When something is invisible and boring, nobody questions it, right? It just silently becomes the foundation of everything. To really wrap our heads around the scale of this power, just think about this number for a second. $21 trillion. That is roughly 10% of the entire world's financial assets, and it's managed by a risk management software called Aladdin. It's not a guy in a suit, it's an algorithm, a piece of software owned by BlackRock that is constantly analyzing the weather, market shifts, and global events to tell the world's largest institutions exactly where they should put their money.
The origin story here is honestly wild. Picture this. It's 1986, and a young Wall Street star named Larry Fink loses a devastating $100 million on a bad bet. Why? Because he couldn't accurately measure risk. That massive, painful failure led him to build BlackRock in 1988, along with its Aladdin software, basically ensuring he would never fly blind again. Fast forward to 2008, his system was so foolproof that when the global financial crisis hit, the US government actually called BlackRock to untangle the whole mess of toxic mortgages.
Now, what's really fascinating is how BlackRock uses this massive scale with total absolute neutrality. Through exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, they hold voting power in competing airlines, banks, and pharma companies all at the same time. Think about that. It completely suppresses true market competition. They aren't tied to some rigid ideology, they just adapt to whatever preserves the bottom line. When pushing ESG initiatives was profitable, they championed it, but the second political pressure threatened billions in pension funds, they quietly stepped back. They are simply an indispensable, highly adaptive operating system for global capital.
Moving on to part 2. Global safety nets explained, how nations manage risk and liquidity.
So, how do entire countries survive when things suddenly go sideways? Well, they use tools like a currency swap. Take the proposed US-UAE currency swap, for example. It acts as a direct safety net. If oil prices crash or regional tensions suddenly spike, this agreement gives the UAE instant US dollars to stabilize their economy, in exchange for their local currency. There's no panic, no middlemen. And the absolute best part? It strengthens the US dollar's global dominance while costing American taxpayers literally nothing unless it's actually used. It is macro-level risk management at its absolute finest. But we've seen how these massive institutions manage risk perfectly, right? Now let's see what happens at the micro level, where risk management completely falls apart. Which brings us to part 3, the silent EMI debt trap, the slow-motion financial crisis in your wallet.
Let's talk about your EMI ratio, your equated monthly installment. This is just the percentage of your monthly salary that goes straight into paying off debt. Keeping it under 35% puts you in the green, healthy zone. Simple enough, right? But incredibly, recent data shows that almost 42% of urban salaried professionals are drowning in the red zone. They are sending more than half of their paycheck directly to banks every single month to pay for cars, homes, and phones. It leaves them with almost nothing for actual wealth building.
And the danger lies right here in the brutal math. If we break down a 14 lakh rupee car loan, you'll see banks will always push the 7-year option. Why? Because the monthly payment looks harmless. But choosing that 7-year timeline over a 3-year one costs you a staggering 2.5 lakhs more in pure interest. You are paying a massive, unnecessary premium for an asset that literally loses value every single day.
But wait, if you think car loans are bad, credit cards are mathematically devastating. Imagine you fall for the minimum payment illusion on a 38,000 rupee credit card balance at a typical 45% annual interest rate. Any guesses how long that takes to pay off? 22 years. Yes, 22 years. And over that time, you'll end up paying over 1,12,000 rupees in pure interest on a tiny 38,000 rupee purchase. It's wild.
And then we have the stealth ninjas of debt, invisible EMIs. We're talking buy now, pay later schemes, 5 different streaming subscriptions you barely watch, automated premiums. These invisible EMIs don't feel like formal bank loans, but functionally, they do the exact same thing. They're fixed monthly obligations that silently push your total debt ratio deep into the danger zone without you even noticing until the end of the month when your bank account is inexplicably empty.
Part 4. Why salary increments are illusions. More money, worse financial health.
You'd think getting a raise fixes everything, right? Nope. Welcome to the salary increment trap. Here's how it works. When your salary goes up, your creditworthiness goes up too. Banks instantly notice this and start offering you pre-approved loans, credit card limit increases, maybe travel financing. And this completely tricks you into upgrading your lifestyle. You rent the nicer apartment, you buy the latest phone, until your actual debt ratio is mathematically worse than it was before you got the raise. You're technically earning more, but you are effectively poorer.
Okay, Part 5. The patient investing formula. How to finally beat the system.
Let's look at a comparison between 2 everyday investors, Carter and Debbie. They both invest $300 a month into the exact same index fund for 33 years. Carter ends up with $1.1 million. Debbie, she ends up with $520,000. That is a massive $580,000 gap, and it perfectly captures the true cost of panic. Carter and Debbie used the exact same strategy, but Debbie made one emotional decision under pressure. She pulled her money out during a temporary market dip and entirely missed the recovery. The math wasn't different for her. Her emotional behavior was.
So, how do you avoid Debbie's mistake? You use the 7-5-3-1 rule. It takes about 7 years for invested money to double. The first 5 are what we call the silent years, where progress feels incredibly, frustratingly invisible. Along the way, you are guaranteed to hit 3 emotional checkpoints: doubt, frustration, and sheer panic during market drops. And finally, the 1 rule. Just automate a tiny 1% increase to your contributions every single year. This isn't just about financial math, folks. It's a psychological survival guide designed to keep you mentally in the game when your brain is screaming at you to quit.
I love thinking of those early years as the loading screen of wealth. You know when a game is stuck at 99% for what feels like hours? That is the first 10 years of investing. It usually generates less than 4% of your total final wealth. It feels incredibly slow. Honestly, it almost feels like a failure, but it's not, because over 96% of your total wealth is backloaded into the later decades, unlocked by the sheer mathematical magic of compound interest.
All right, Part 6. Escaping the financial matrix. Taking back control of your timeline. It really all boils down to this classic quote often attributed to Warren Buffett. The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. It hits the nail on the head, right? Just as the world's largest institutions, like BlackRock, play a game of extreme patience, fully automated systems, and calculated risk, you have to apply that exact same unshakable patience to your own monthly budget. You absolutely cannot let the banks capitalize on your impatience with 7-year car loans and minimum credit card payments.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I hope this has given you the clarity to finally step out of these invisible traps. Grab a calculator today, figure out your real EMI debt ratio, and for goodness sake, cancel those invisible subscriptions. I want to leave you with this. Are you actively managing your own financial timeline, or are you just a profitable data point living on autopilot inside someone else's system? Because the math is constantly ticking. Which side of the equation are you going to be on?